medicine gets in there and changes the course of a disease. Healthcare can be anything from medicine to long-term staying in a nursing home to any number of therapies and treatments and hand-holding and so on and so on. So I think what's happened is that the hard, irreducible core of medicine, as in like we're going to end your cancer, we're going to end your heart disease, we're going to make you walk again, we're going to end Alzheimer's, like that, has been sort of mushed into a general sense of, gee, we have medical health problems here, and so some combination of social workers and healthcare experts are going to make things better. The total medical R&D budget for the country, for the United States, is about $113 billion. That's a 2008 number. About 38 of that comes from the government, and the rest comes from private companies and foundations and so on. So that $113 billion fits into that $2.5 trillion for what we spend on healthcare. So you think that if our R&D budget, as it were, is 4% of what we're spending, you think there'd be more room for improvement there. But out of that $113 billion for R&D comes any hope we have for new medicines and drugs. Now, the fact of the matter is that if you average the cost of a new drug across pharmaceutical expenditures, you get about $2.4 billion a drug. 2.4, that's a number from the Pharma Association. 2.4 billion into 113 billion is not a lot of drugs. I mean, there's a lot of diseases. That's not that many drugs. And so you then are stuck with trying to get more out of that. And then meanwhile, on top of that, you've got the issues of declining productivity. The FDA has an effect on the new supply of drugs. The trial lawyers have an effect on the new supply of drugs. If pharmaceutical companies get a $5 or $10 billion hit every time some lawsuit erupts on them, obviously they're disincented to be doing this in the first place and so on. So you could wind up, we've seen a 2/3 fall in the number of new drugs approved by the FDA in the last 15 years. I think the big thing to watch is the big countries to watch are Singapore and the Chinese diaspora, wherever it might be. I mean, China, as the New York Times wrote in January, has an upcoming demographic wave of senior citizens. They've got, I think, looking at 400 million people over the age of 60 by 2040. So they've got to do something about that now, right? And so whether or not they choose to focus on that, but what I think we do know from experience is when the Chinese decide to sit on some industry like automobiles or electronics or aviation, they can get it done. They have the resources and the kind of governmental power to simply declare that there will be 100 business schools and they all arise like that. Now, that's not our system, but there is something to be said for a certain amount of strategy on our part in the way that we strategize to eliminate malaria and yellow fever by draining swamps and wetlands across the South back 100 years ago, or to build Panama Canal, or the way we strategized on polio, or the way that we strategized on AIDS within our own lifetimes. I think that is extremely valuable and something that all the countries of the world, frankly, could be working together on. It doesn't have to be a Chinese thing or an American thing. It could be an international thing where we say, look, we all have this problem. Let's fix it together.